Welcome to part 3 of my look at the elemental combinations, psychological archetypes, and the wheel of life. Now, here we see the wheel, and going round from the top clockwise, the elements are air and fire, the magician; air and water, the patriarch; water and air, the child, angel or nymph; water and earth, the enchantress; water and fire, the actress; fire and water, the fool; fire and air, the jester; fire and earth, the warrior; earth and fire, the slave, worker, mother, or hearth priestess; earth and water, mother nature; earth and air, the old woman or matriarch; and air and earth, the observer. Now, the thing I want us to remember with this is that, as we said before, there are 4 cardinals. And these cardinals have a kind of special place with the elements that dominate them. They're all monogendered archetypes, and monogendered in terms of their elemental makeup. And so at the top, the magician is the cardinal of air, the enchantress is the cardinal of water, the jester is the cardinal of fire, and Mother Nature is the cardinal of earth. And the thing to remember is that the elements are most supported by the other same gender combination. So for instance, the magician is most supported by the jester. Air needs fire, fire needs air, you see? And Mother Earth is most supported by the enchantress, and the enchantress is most supported by Mother Earth. Earth needs water, water needs earth. So that's a thing to remember here. When we look at this as well, we'll see that each cardinal is surrounded on either side by archetypes that are also dominated by the element of which it is the cardinal of. So this is the cardinal of air, and here we have air and earth, and here we have air and water. Same way. Go to the cardinal of water here, and here we have water and air, and here we have water and fire. Cardinal of fire, fire and water, fire and earth. Cardinal of earth, earth and fire, earth and air. Now, not only that, but we can see, because this is a very, very elegant system, really. There is an entire arc of air, if you see what I mean, because here's the cardinal of air. Here are the 2 archetypes that have air first, and here are the 2 archetypes that have air second. So all the archetypes that have air are actually shown in this arc. And these are all, in some sense, dependent upon the cardinal for their air. It has a kind of overall influence somehow. This is the scheme that Brian Collingwood came up with. Similarly, look, over here with water, we've got the 2 archetypes which are dominated by water, and then you've got the other 2 archetypes which have water second. So all of the archetypes that have water form this arc of water with the cardinal in its center, and that's the same with all of them. So all of them are like that. Now, if we want to have a look at what we were talking about before, which is that there are actually relationships between the archetypes which help them. So we can actually have a look at that, yeah? We can actually have a look at the archetypes that help each other. And these are shown by the green lines. So let's have a look at what supports and what helps. Say we've got the warrior. The warrior is fire and earth. Now, what helps and supports the warrior is the observer, which is air and earth. So you'll notice that, in fact, they have the same second element. They both have earth second. Now, in terms of their first element, they are the elements that support each other. So fire is supported by air. Air is supported by fire, and they both share the second element. So that shows you how they're going to reconcile each other, how they're going to help each other. They've both got their earth as a common basis, but their primary element is complementary. It helps each other. So the fire of the warrior helps the air of the observer, and the air of the observer helps the fire of the warrior. And in practical terms, you can see that the warrior is helped by the objectivity and the space and the detachment of the observer that keeps the warrior safe and in a good condition. And similarly, the observer is helped by the capacity to act and to do and to achieve things which the warrior has. So it overcomes the observer's detachment to the point of not doing a thing. Yeah. So it makes the observer more. It gives it some of that effectiveness that will allow it to live better. Let's have another look at another one. Let's have a look at say the old woman or matriarch and the child. So look, the old woman, earth and air. The child, water and air. So again, they share the same second element. They share air. They both have a common basis of air as their second element. Their primary elements help each other because they're earth and water. Earth helps water, water helps earth. They have a common basis in air, but they support and help each other. Now you can see how this would work practically, because the old woman is given the innocence and the trusting, some of the innocence and trust from the child. And the child also gives the old woman something to look after, which gives her life more meaning, really. And it's a very, very good thing for her. On the other hand, the child, who is so innocent and so naive, has the care and carefulness of the old woman to look after her. So you can see that these work very well together. Now, if you follow any of the other ones, you'll see similar sorts of relationships. And the whole point of the relationship, what gives a good supporting relationship in this way, is that the archetypes share the same second element, and their primary element, their first element, is of the same gender. In other words, their first elements are the elements that would naturally support each other, i.e. fire with air and earth with water. And that's what gives you these supporting relationships. I hope that's useful and helpful. Thank you. Just a further note here about the cardinals and what would help them, what could reconcile them, etc. This is an interesting question, because you'll see all of our reconciliations and helping aspects are all between the non-cardinals. And so it's an interesting question. What about the cardinals? Well, the cardinals are really somewhat different in their makeup. If we looked at the rule that we used to find the helping archetype for each archetype we looked at, we found that it had to have the same second element, while the first element should be the other same gender element. So fire for water and vice versa, and air for earth and vice versa. Now, obviously, if we look at something like this, say we look at Mother Nature, it's earth and water. Okay, so shares the same second element. So second element with water. First element of its helping of its helping archetype should be the other same gender element. Now, the same gender element to Earth is water. So that means you've got water and water, which actually isn't an archetype in this system. It's like it's water of water. It's pure water. And well, the nearest we've got to that is of course the Enchantress, which is the cardinal of water. And in fact, well, yes, it is the Enchantress which helps the Mother Earth the most, just as it is actually the Jester that helps the Magician the most, and vice versa. So in a sense, the cardinals are to each other. The cardinals of the same gender are to each other the nearest you can get to the reconciling and the helping archetype, at least looked at from in this way. That feels somewhat unsatisfactory, though, because you've still got this complete disconnect between the horizontal and vertical axes, between the masculine and the feminine cardinals. And you would think, well, there has to surely be a reconciliation between all of these cardinals. And I think that's absolutely true. They really do need to be reconciled. Now, my sense is that these cardinals are reconciled with each other through the movement of energy, through the whole system, through the inner and outer journeys. So I feel that their reconciling activities are carried out by the other archetypes, in a sense. So the other archetypes get aspects of their energy, in a sense, from the cardinals, and they then go through the activity, whether on the inward or outward journey, to reconcile all of these things. And then this somehow is how that the cardinals actually have their reconciliation. The cardinals of reconciliation are reconciled through the circulation of energy through the entire system. And I think it's carried out by the 8 archetypes, which are not the cardinals. That's how I'm seeing it at the moment. I'm sure there are other ways of seeing it, and I'm sure that there are many different ways of looking at the relationships between the archetypes. So I would always encourage people to look at them in new ways and find new connections and see what you come up with. But anyway, that's how I'm seeing it at the moment. Thanks for watching.